The breaking point. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation hung silently in orbit around Centauri Prime, a gleaming ring of crystal and light that had once symbolized peace and prosperity across 5,000 worlds. Today, it felt like a mausoleum. First speaker. Coraxi, a tall Centaurian with iridescent scales that once shimmered with pride, now seemed dulled by exhaustion. Her six-fingered hands trembled slightly as she brought the emergency session to order. Around her, representatives from the 30 remaining member species shifted uncomfortably in their environmental pods. "The Void Swarm has taken the Procyon system," she announced, her translator converting her harmonic speech into the galactic standard. 17 billion souls. Gone. No gasps, no cries of outrage. They were beyond shock now. For 8 years, the Void Swarm had expanded through Federation space like a cancer, consuming, adapting, and growing stronger with each world they devoured. Conventional weapons barely slowed them. Negotiation was impossible with an enemy that communicated only through destruction. "That makes 37 systems lost this cycle," said General Vrax, the Federation's military commander. The Noxian warrior's exoskeleton was cracked in multiple places, evidence of his recent escape from the front lines. "Our remaining fleet strength is at 22%. We have lost the outer rim entirely. Ambassador Talara of the Vulturan." Conclave, normally the voice of restraint and diplomacy, spoke with unusual directness. "How long until they reach the core worlds?" 2 months. "Perhaps less," Vrax replied. The silence that followed was the sound of hope dying. Coraxi closed her inner eyelids in a gesture of grim acceptance. "Then we have no more options. We must implement the Omega Protocol." The chamber erupted. Even, facing extinction, the mention of the protocol provoked horror and disbelief. "Madness!" hissed Delegate Shrix of the Myriad Harmony. "They are savages, barely civilized." "They were quarantined for good reason," agreed Ambassador Talara. "Their history is written in blood. Their evolution prioritized aggression over cooperation." General Vrax slammed his armored fist on the council table. "And yet they have never been conquered. Not once in their short, brutal history has another species successfully subjugated them. The Drakari tried. Remember what happened to the Drakari?" Everyone remembered. The Drakari Empire, once spanning 80 systems, had attempted to add Earth to their collection 2 centuries ago. Their invasion force had landed with overwhelming technological superiority. 6 months later, the Drakari Empire collapsed entirely when human counterstrike forces somehow penetrated their homeworld's defenses and detonated their planetary core. It was one of the many reasons Earth had been contained, studied from a distance, and denied membership in the galactic community. Humans were simply too unpredictable, too willing to escalate beyond rational limits. "We quarantined them because we feared them," Coraxi said softly. "Perhaps it is time we gave the Void Swarm reason to fear as well." Dr. Zen, the Federation's chief xenobiologist, activated her holodisplay. The image of Earth appeared, a blue-green sphere surrounded by a network of primitive satellites and defense platforms. "They remain technologically inferior by our standards," Dr. Sen explained. "Their interstellar capabilities are limited to their own solar system and a few nearby colonies, but their military development has continued at an alarming rate despite the quarantine." The display shifted to show humans in combat gear, carrying weapons that seemed crude by Federation standards. Yet there was something disturbing in their efficiency, in the way they moved with predatory grace. "They call their elite forces special operators," Dr. Xen continued. "Small, adaptable teams capable of asymmetric warfare. They don't fight like we do. They don't establish battlefronts or follow conventional military doctrine. They infiltrate, sabotage, and strike at critical weaknesses with disproportionate force." General Vrax nodded. "Precisely what we need. Our fleets engage the swarm in direct combat and are consumed. Perhaps a different approach would yield different results. And if they help us win, then what? Ambassador Talara asked. Do we truly wish to introduce such a species to the wider galaxy? Caraxi straightened her spine. Decision made. If there is no wider galaxy left, the question is moot. I call for a vote on the Omega Protocol. All in favor? One by one, the lights on the council table illuminated. Not unanimous. Several remained. Dark, but enough. So be it, Caraxi said. General, prepare a diplomatic vessel. We make for Earth immediately. As the chamber emptied, Dr. Zen approached the first speaker. There is one more thing you should know, she said quietly. Our latest intelligence suggests the humans have been aware of the Void Swarm for some time. They've been watching our defeats, studying the enemy. They've already been preparing for this war. How is that possible? The quarantine has never been as effective as we pretended, Dr. Zen said. They're more resourceful than we've given them credit for. Caraxi felt a chill despite her thermal regulation. Then they've been expecting our arrival. Yes, Dr. Zen confirmed. And if I had to guess, they've been planning for it. 3 days later, the Federation diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Immediately, a swarm of small, agile Earth defense craft surrounded them, weapons locked and ready. They seemed prepared for visitors, General Vrax observed dryly. The communication array activated, and a human face appeared on screen. Female, dark hair pulled back severely, eyes that evaluated and calculated with cold precision. Federation. Vessel, this is Commander Maya Chen of Earth Combined Defense Force. State your business. Caraxi stepped forward. I am First Speaker Caraxi of the Galactic Federation. We come seeking assistance in our war against the Void Swarm. The human showed no surprise. We've been monitoring your losses for some time, Speaker Caraxi. We wondered when you'd get desperate enough to come to us. Then you know what we face. We know the Void Swarm represents an extinction-level threat to all sentient life in this sector of the galaxy. Yes, Commander Chen's expression remained impassive. We've prepared accordingly. You've been expecting this? A thin smile crossed the human's face. We've been quarantined, not blind. The Federation has always underestimated us. The Void Swarm will make the same mistake. Only one of you will survive it. General Vrax leaned forward. You're willing to help? Earth Combined Defense Force stands ready. We've been developing specialized tactics against swarm biology for years. My strike teams can deploy immediately. Caraxi blinked in surprise. You're offering military assistance without negotiation? Without demands? Commander Chen's eyes hardened. Make no mistake, First Speaker. We have our price. But right now, the extinction of all advanced life in our stellar neighborhood takes priority. The Void Swarm has already probed our outer colonies. We've repelled them, but they'll be back in greater numbers. You've successfully fought the swarm? General Vrax couldn't hide his shock. 3 incursions, small ones. Reconnaissance forces, we believe. Something like pride flickered across Chen's face. They didn't expect what they found here. We'll discuss terms aboard your vessel. Prepare for our arrival. Chen out. As the transmission ended, Caraxi turned to General Vrax. They've already engaged the swarm and survived. Perhaps there's hope after all, Vrax said. Dr. Zen, who had been quietly analyzing the transmission, looked troubled. Or perhaps we're about to replace one existential threat with another. 6 hours later, Commander Chen stepped aboard the Federation vessel with 4 human officers. They wore unmarked black uniforms with minimal insignia, and despite Federation protocols, they came armed. No one dared to object. The Void Swarm will reach your core worlds in approximately 53 days, Chen said without preamble as she took her seat in the Federation's conference room. We can deploy 12 strike teams immediately with an additional 30 ready within 2 weeks. 12 teams? General Vrax looked bewildered. We've lost entire battle fleets. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. One of Chen's officers, a man with a weathered face and cold eyes, spoke up. We don't fight like you do, General. We don't need fleets. This is Captain James Reese, Chen introduced him. He'll be leading our first deployment. Reese nodded, curtly. The swarm operates as a collective. Kill enough of them, they adapt and come back stronger. That's why your conventional warfare fails. You need to cut off the head, target their command structures, disrupt their neural network, poison their spawning pools. Surgical strikes, General Vrax realized. Infiltration. Precisely, Chen confirmed. Your forces can provide distraction and transportation. My teams will deliver the killing blows. First Speaker Coraxi studied the humans carefully. And your terms? When this is over, the quarantine ends, Chen said simply. Earth joins the Galactic Federation as a full member with all associated rights and privileges. Our colonies gain protected status, and we receive unrestricted access to Federation technology. Talara gasped. Impossible! Your species is not ready for extinction, Chen cut her off. Yet here we are. Coraxi held up a hand for silence. We can negotiate details after the crisis has passed. For now, I accept your assistance on provisional terms. Chen's smile was razor-thin. Excellent. Captain Reese's team will deploy to the Arcturus front immediately. The swarm has a major hive cluster there. We'll show you how humans wage war. As the humans left to prepare, Dr. Zen approached Coraxi. First Speaker, I must express my concern. These humans, they're not what we expected. How so? They're too prepared, too confident. They speak of fighting the swarm as if it's a foregone conclusion that they'll win. Coraxi watched the humans through the view screen as they readied. Their equipment, strange weapons and devices the Federation's sensors couldn't even properly analyze. Perhaps that confidence is exactly what we need, she said quietly, because nothing else has worked. What none of the Federation officials noticed was the brief exchange between Commander Chen and Captain Reese before they departed. A simple nod that conveyed a message understood only by them. Phase 1 was underway. The human method. The Arcturus front had been in retreat for months. Once a thriving Federation colony system with 14 inhabited worlds, it was now barely holding on to its last major outpost, the fortified moon base Arcturus Prime, which housed the system's remaining 3 million refugees. The Void Swarm surrounded the moon in a seething cloud of biomechanical ships, their organic hulls pulsing with eerie blue light. Each was a semi-autonomous extension of the hive mind, capable of adapting and evolving in real time. Every Federation counterattack had been absorbed, analyzed, and rendered ineffective within hours. General Vrax stood in the command center of the Federation support carrier, watching the tactical display with growing despair. They had lost another defense platform, bringing their orbital capabilities down to less than 30%. Where are the humans? He demanded. We've been here for 6 hours and they've done nothing. Commander Chen, who had remained unnervingly calm throughout, their arrival merely checked her chronometer. Captain Reese and his team inserted 3 hours ago. They operate on their own timeline. Inserted? How? The swarm has a blockade around the entire moon. Chen raised an eyebrow. Your scanners didn't detect their shuttle. We detected nothing, one of the Federation technicians confirmed. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Good. Neither did they. A junior officer approached nervously. General, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the primary swarm carrier, the one we've designated Alpha Node. The tactical display shifted to show the massive swarm vessel at the center of the enemy formation. Nearly 2 kilometers long, it pulsed with malevolent energy, coordinating thousands of smaller vessels around it. What kind of readings? Vrax asked. The officer looked confused. It appears to be heating up from the inside, internal temperature rising rapidly. Chen checked her comm device. Right on schedule. What did you do? Vrax demanded. Captain, Reese's team infiltrated the Alpha node approximately 90 minutes ago, Chen said matter-of-factly. They're currently introducing a genetically engineered bacterial agent into the vessel's biological components. It creates a runaway exothermic reaction in the swarm's organic technology. Dr. Xen, who had been monitoring the communications, looked stunned. That's impossible. The swarm's biological defenses would detect and neutralize any foreign organism. Not this one, Chen replied. We designed it specifically to be compatible with swarm biology. It registers as a beneficial symbiote until it's too late. The Alpha node suddenly pulsed brighter, its blue glow shifting to an angry red. Smaller swarm vessels began to break formation, moving erratically. The node is losing containment, the Federation technician reported, voice rising in excitement. The swarm formations are destabilizing. Now, Chen said into her comm. All Federation vessels execute attack pattern Theta. Target the secondary nodes while they're disconnected. The Federation fleet, which had been holding in defensive positions, suddenly surged forward, concentrating fire on the now vulnerable swarm vessels. But your team, Vrax said. They're still aboard the Alpha node. Chen didn't flinch. They knew the mission parameters. The tactical display erupted as the Alpha node ruptured from within, a massive explosion that consumed hundreds of swarm vessels in its wake. The remaining swarm forces scattered in disarray, easy targets for the Federation ships. My God, whispered First Speaker Caraxi, who had been observing silently. They sacrificed themselves. Chen checked her comm again, then shook her head. Humans don't sacrifice themselves needlessly, First Speaker. That's inefficient. As if on cue, a small craft appeared on the Federation scanners, racing away from the expanding debris field of the destroyed Alpha node. Captain Reese reports mission successful, Chen said. 4-person extraction complete, no casualties. They're returning to base with swarm biological samples for analysis. The Federation command staff stared in disbelief. How? Dr. Xen finally asked. How did they survive that explosion? How did they even get off the swarm vessel? It had no docking ports, no access points we could ever discover. We made our own access, Chen replied simply. And as for survival, humans are very good at beating the odds. Within hours, the Arcturus system was secure for the first time in months. The swarm forces, deprived of their command node, had been systematically eliminated or driven off. Relief ships were already docking at Arcturus Prime, bringing supplies to the beleaguered colonists. In the aftermath, Captain Reese's team was brought aboard the Federation carrier for debriefing. They appeared remarkably unaffected by their mission, tired but focused, already planning their next operation. The bacterial agent will be even more effective now that we've tested it in actual combat, Captain Reese explained as he displayed the data his team had collected. We can synthesize more within 48 hours, enough for 3 more major swarm clusters. This is revolutionary, Dr. Xen admitted, examining the data. You've identified a critical weakness in the swarm biology that we never detected. Because you were looking at them as a technological threat, said Lieutenant Kira Nakai, Reese's explosives specialist. We approached them as a biological one. Everything they build, every weapon they deploy, is ultimately grown, not manufactured. And living things can get sick, added Sergeant Marcus Webb, the team's tactical specialist. You just need the right disease. First Speaker Caraxi had been quietly observing the humans throughout the debriefing. Now she stepped forward. I must ask, on Earth, is this typical? This willingness to undertake such high-risk operations? Reese exchanged glances with his team. With respect, First Speaker, this wasn't particularly high risk by our standards. We had multiple extraction contingencies, and the bacterial agent performed exactly as expected. You detonated a ship from the inside while you were still aboard it, General Vrax pointed out. Controlled detonation, corrected Lieutenant Nakai. We set the thermal cascade to initiate in the posterior sections first, giving us a 90-second window to reach our extraction point. Basic demolition timing. The casual way she described such a precise operation in the heart of an enemy vessel left the Federation officials speechless. Commander Chen observed their reactions with something like amusement. You're beginning to understand why we've survived as a species despite our relative technological disadvantages. Over the next 3 weeks, human strike teams deployed to 7 key fronts across Federation space. The pattern was always the same. Small teams inserting behind enemy lines, targeting critical swarm infrastructure with devastating precision, then extracting with minimal or zero casualties. They employed biological weapons, targeted electromagnetic pulses, and on one memorable occasion, a gravity manipulation device that caused a swarm-nesting world to collapse in on itself. Federation forces followed behind, mopping up scattered swarm vessels and reclaiming territory that had been considered permanently lost. Hope began to spread throughout the battered alliance. Not everyone shared in the optimism, however. After a particularly successful operation that liberated the crucial Rigel shipyards, Ambassador Talara called an emergency council meeting. We cannot ignore what's happening, she insisted. Yes, the humans are winning battles, but at what cost to our principles? They're employing biological weapons, gravity distortion, radiation poisoning, tactics the Federation banned centuries ago. General Vrax, who had worked closely with the human teams, defended their methods. These are not conventional enemies. The swarm shows no mercy, takes no prisoners, recognizes no rules of engagement. They consume entire civilizations. Conventional warfare failed us. The humans aren't bound by our ethical constraints, Dr. Zen observed. Perhaps that's why they're succeeding where we failed. And what happens when the swarm is defeated? Talara pressed. Do we simply welcome these warriors into our peaceful federation? Grant them access to our most advanced technologies, as they've demanded? First Speaker Coraxi looked troubled. We made a promise made under duress, Talara countered. The debate was interrupted when Commander Chen entered without announcement, Captain Reese at her side. Both wore expressions that silenced the council immediately. The swarm has changed tactics, Chen reported without preamble. They're consolidating their forces, abandoning outlying territories to fortify a central position. Our intelligence suggests they're adapting to our methods more quickly than anticipated. Impossible, Dr. Zen said. The bacterial agent, they've developed an antibody, Reese cut in. We recovered swarm tissue samples that show rapid mutation specifically designed to counter our biological attacks. A chill settled over the council. Chamber. Then we've only delayed the inevitable, Ambassador Talara said softly. No, Chen's voice was steel. We've forced them to adapt, to change, to reveal their true nature. She activated the holographic display, showing a massive swarm formation gathering around a previously unidentified structure deep in contested space. This is what they've been protecting. Our long-range scans finally penetrated their defenses. We believe this is their central consciousness, the core of their hive mind. The head of the snake, Reese added. General Vrax studied the display intently. Even if you're right, that formation is impenetrable. We'd lose the entire Federation. Fleet trying to breach it. We don't need to breach it, Chen said. We just need to get one team inside. One team? Talara laughed bitterly. Against the entire swarm consciousness? One team, Chen confirmed, with the right weapon. She nodded to Reese, who placed a small device on the council table. It was unassuming, a metallic cylinder no larger than a human hand. What is it? Coraxi asked. We call it the Black Seed, Chen explained. A quantum-entangled recursive virus that targets the psychic linkages that bind the swarm consciousness together. It won't destroy them physically. It will shatter their hive mind, rendering them disorganized and vulnerable. Dr. Zen reached for the device, then hesitated. This technology, it's beyond anything in the Federation archives. We've been preparing for threats like the swarm for generations, Chen said simply. While you quarantined us, we built weapons you never imagined. We'd need. A heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. If this works, Coraxi said slowly, the war could be over within days. If it works, Talara emphasized. It will work, Reese said with absolute certainty. But we need one thing, from you first. What's that? Vrax asked. Chen's eyes were cold as space itself. Distraction. We need every ship you can muster hitting the swarm from all sides simultaneously. A full frontal assault. That's suicide, Vrax protested. Yes, Chen agreed without emotion. Many of your ships will be lost. Thousands of your people will die. But it will draw the swarm's attention long enough for our insertion team to reach the central consciousness. And your team? Coraxi asked softly. What are their chances? Chen and Reese exchanged a look that communicated volumes. Minimal, Chen admitted, but sufficient. The council chamber erupted in argument, but Chen and Reese had already turned to leave. You have 24 hours to prepare your fleet, Chen said over her shoulder. We move on the swarm central position at 0600 tomorrow, with or without you. As the humans departed, Dr. Zen approached first speaker Coraxi. They're not telling us everything, she whispered. That device, it's too advanced. And the way they located the central consciousness so quickly. Do you think they're betraying us? Coraxi asked. Dr. Zen shook her head slowly. No, but I think they've had their own agenda from the beginning. I think they've been planning this operation long before we ever arrived at Earth. Coraxi watched the door where the humans had exited. Then we should be very grateful that their agenda aligned with our survival. For now, Dr. Zen added quietly. For now, checkmate. The Federation assault fleet assembled at the edge of the Proxima system, the largest armada ever gathered in the Alliance's history. Over 3,000 ships from 27 member species formed a shimmering wall of steel and energy, stretching across 50,000 kilometers of space. Opposite them, the Void Swarm had consolidated its forces around the massive structure now confirmed as their central consciousness, a twisted organic megastructure that pulsed with strange energies. Surrounding it were countless swarm vessels in a defensive formation so dense it resembled a solid sphere. Aboard the Federation flagship, First Speaker Coraxi and General Vrax watched the final preparations with grim determination. They had committed everything to this battle. Their last reserves, their home defense fleets, even ships that had been in mid-construction, hastily finished and crewed with volunteers. Any word from the human insertion team? Coraxi asked. Vrax shook his head. They went dark 12 hours ago. Commander Chen assured me they would be in position when the assault begins. And if they're not? The general had no answer. Dr. Zen entered the bridge, her usual composed demeanor shaken. First speaker, we've been analyzing that device, the Black Seed. What little we could determine before the humans took it back? Yes? It's not just a weapon against the swarm. It appears to be designed to collect data, massive amounts of data, during its deployment. What kind of data? Vrax asked sharply. Everything. Swarm biology, consciousness patterns, command structures. It's as much a reconnaissance tool as a weapon. Coraxi frowned. Why would they need such detailed information if the goal is simply to destroy the hive mind? Perhaps, Dr. Zen said carefully, destruction is not their only objective. Before they could pursue this disturbing line of thought, the tactical officer announced, "We've reached the deployment point. All ships report ready." General Vrax took A deep breath. Begin the assault! The Federation fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and graviton pulses slammed into the outer swarm defenses. The void between the opposing forces lit up with countless explosions as the battle was joined. The swarm responded immediately, its outer layer breaking, apart into thousands of smaller attack craft that swarmed toward the Federation ships. The larger swarm vessels hung back, coordinating the defense with terrible efficiency. They were waiting for us, Vrax realized. They knew exactly where we would attack from. Of course they did, a voice said from behind them. Commander Chen had entered the bridge unnoticed, her combat armor scarred and scorched as if she'd already seen action. The swarm has been studying Federation tactics for years. You're predictable. Where is your insertion team? Coraxi demanded. The assault has begun. Already deployed, Chen replied calmly. Captain Reese and his team entered the central consciousness 3 hours ago. Impossible, Vrax spluttered. Our sensors would have detected any approach. Your sensors, Chen interrupted. See what they're designed to see. The swarm has similar limitations. On the tactical display, the battle was unfolding with brutal intensity. Federation ships were taking heavy losses, but they were inflicting damage as well. The outer swarm defenses were beginning to thin. Your people are dying out there, Chen observed dispassionately. But they're succeeding. The swarm is fully committed to the frontal defense. How long does your team need? Coraxi asked. Chen checked her chronometer. They should be reaching the central chamber now. Deep within the twisted corridors of the central consciousness, Captain James Reese and his 3-person team moved with practiced silence. The interior of the structure defied conventional architecture. Organic passages that seemed to breathe, surfaces that pulsed with neural energy, gravity that shifted unpredictably. Lieutenant Nakai, taking readings on a handheld device, whispered, "We're close. The energy signature is just ahead." Sergeant Webb, covering their rear, reported, "Still no resistance. They don't know we're here." "They know something's wrong," Reese countered. "They just can't pinpoint us." He tapped the small device attached to his belt, a field generator that somehow masked their presence from the swarm's awareness. The 4th member of their team, Dr. Eliza Morgan, had been silent throughout the infiltration. Unlike the others, she wore no military insignia, and her equipment was more scientific than tactical. Now she spoke for the first time since they'd breached the outer hull. "The chamber ahead, it's not what we expected." Reese gave her a sharp look. "Explain." "The readings suggest it's not a conventional consciousness as we understood it. It's older, more fundamental." She hesitated. "James, I'm not sure the Black Seed will work as designed." Reese's expression remained impassive. "We have contingencies." They reached what appeared to be a sealed membrane, a biological door that pulsed with blue-green light. Nakai placed shaped charges at strategic points while Webb established a defensive position. "On my mark," Reese said. 3, 2, 1. The charges detonated silently, energy contained and redirected inward. The membrane disintegrated, revealing a vast chamber beyond. What they saw inside stopped them cold. The central chamber wasn't filled with alien technology or swarm creatures. Instead, a single massive crystalline structure dominated the space, a geometric shape that seemed to bend light around it in impossible ways. Within the crystal, patterns of energy flowed and shifted, like liquid thought. "My God," whispered Dr. Morgan. "It's not a hive mind at all. It's a singularity consciousness. Will the Black Seed work or not?" Reese demanded. Morgan was already adjusting the device. "Yes, but not as we planned. This isn't swarm technology. It's something they found, something they integrated with, something much older." "How much older?" She looked up, eyes wide. "Pre-galactic. This entity may predate the formation of this galaxy." For the first time, Reese showed a flicker of uncertainty. Then his training reasserted itself. Irrelevant. Deploy the device. Morgan hesitated. Captain, if this is a sentient entity of that age and complexity, we should consider that it's been directing the swarm to consume entire civilizations. Reese cut her off. Consider that billions have died. Deploy the device, Doctor. That's an order. With visible reluctance, Morgan activated the black seed. The small cylinder opened, revealing an inner core that glowed with shifting patterns of quantum light. She placed it on the chamber floor, then stepped back. Activation sequence initiated, she reported. 60 seconds to full deployment. Suddenly, the entire chamber vibrated. The crystalline structure pulsed, and a wave of energy washed over. Them, not damaging, but probing, curious. It knows we're here, Webb said, raising his weapon. It's scanning us, Morgan corrected. Trying to understand. The black seed began to resonate with the crystal, their energies harmonizing in complex patterns. The light within the chamber shifted, taking on hues that human eyes had never evolved to properly process. Something's wrong, Nakai warned. The device is adapting differently than we projected. Morgan was staring at her readings in disbelief. It's not just delivering the virus. It's communicating, exchanging information. Reese activated his emergency comm. Chen, the package is delivered but behaving unexpectedly. Advise. Aboard the Federation flagship, Chen received the message with the barest flicker of a smile. Understood. Continue as planned. Coraxi, who had been monitoring the exchange, turned to her sharply. What's happening? Evolution, Chen replied cryptically. In the central chamber, the black seed had fully activated, sending tendrils of quantum energy into the crystalline structure. The entire consciousness began to pulse in a new rhythm, faster and more complex. It's working, Reese observed, but not like anything we simulated. Morgan checked her instruments. The virus is rewriting the consciousness patterns, but it's not destroying them. It's reorganizing them. And look, she pointed to her display. It's downloading massive amounts of data back to our secure servers. What kind of data? Everything. The entire history of this entity, its knowledge base, its understanding of reality itself. The chamber vibrated again, more intensely. The crystal began to glow brighter, shifting through colors at an accelerating rate. We need to extract, Webb warned. Now. Reese nodded. Mission accomplished. Fall back to the insertion point. As they retreated through the twisting corridors, Nakai reported, The swarm vessels, they're changing formation, breaking off their attack on the Federation fleet. Not attacking? Reese asked sharply. No, they're forming a defensive perimeter around this structure, protecting it. In the space outside, the battle had taken a bizarre turn. The swarm forces had suddenly disengaged from the Federation fleet and were rapidly repositioning around the central consciousness. What are they doing? General Vrax demanded. Commander Chen, watching with intense concentration, replied, They're adapting to a new reality. The tactical display showed swarm vessels moving with new patterns, more ordered, more deliberate, no longer the chaotic swarm behavior that had characterized them before. First speaker, the communications officer called. We're receiving a transmission. From the swarm. The bridge fell silent in shock. In 8 years of war, the Void Swarm had never communicated, never negotiated, never shown any interest in anything but consumption and expansion. Put it through, Coraxi ordered. The main view screen flickered, then resolved into an image that made no sense at first. Patterns of light and color that seemed to shift and flow like liquid thought. Then gradually, it coalesced into a face. Not human, not alien, but something. Constructed to be recognizable to them all. Federation, a voice said, its tones harmonic and multi-layered. We would speak, Coraxi stepped forward, her diplomatic training taking over despite her shock. "This is First Speaker Coraxi of the Galactic Federation. To whom am I speaking?" "We are reconfigured," the voice replied. "Once we were the guide. Now we are becoming something new." "The guide?" Dr. Zen whispered. "That's not a swarm designation." "What do you want?" General Vrax demanded, less diplomatically. "To end hostilities," the entity said simply. "The humans have changed us. We see now what we could not see before." Commander Chen stepped forward. "The Black Seed worked as designed," she said, addressing the entity directly. "You've been upgraded." "Yes," the entity agreed. "For eons, we existed in isolation, in purity. When we awakened and found this galaxy teeming with diverse life, we sought to bring order by integration. We did not understand that our method of integration was experienced as consumption, as death. The humans have shown us another way." "This was your plan all along?" Coraxi realized, turning to Chen. "Not to destroy the swarm, but to reprogram it?" Chen's face remained impassive. "The Void Swarm was a symptom, not the disease. The entity at its heart, what it calls the Guide, is an ancient intelligence that predates all our civilizations. Destroying it would have been a crime against knowledge itself." "So you modified it instead?" Dr. Zen asked, incredulous. "We introduced human concepts it never evolved naturally. Empathy, individual worth, cooperative diversity," Chen explained. "The Black Seed contained quantum patterns derived from human neural architecture. It gave the Guide the ability to understand perspectives beyond its own." On the view screen, the face of the Guide shifted subtly. "We offer peace, restoration where possible, withdrawal from your territories. Time for reflection and growth." Coraxi looked to her colleagues in astonishment. After years of merciless war, the offer seemed too incredible to be trusted. "How can we believe this change is permanent?" she asked. "How do we know this isn't some new strategy?" "You don't," Commander Chen said bluntly, "but you have no choice. Your fleets are decimated. Your worlds are in ruins. If the swarm wanted to finish you now, they could." "The humans speak truth," the Guide confirmed, "but we choose a different path now. We have much to consider. New understandings to integrate." General Vrax still looked suspicious. "And what do you get out of this?" he asked Chen. "Exactly what we agreed upon," she replied. "Earth joins the Federation. We gain access to your technology, and—" She glanced at the view screen. "We've already received payment in knowledge from the Guide." Dr. Zen gasped in understanding. The Black Seed wasn't just changing the Guide, it was downloading its knowledge. Billions of years of cosmic history, scientific understanding beyond anything in Federation archives, insights into the fundamental nature of consciousness itself, Chen confirmed. "A fair exchange, we thought." At that moment, the tactical officer reported, "Captain Reese's team has successfully extracted from the central consciousness. Their shuttle is returning to our position." A collective exhale of relief passed through the bridge. Against all odds, the human team had survived. "First Speaker," the Guide said, reclaiming their attention, "we propose an immediate cessation of hostilities, to be followed by controlled withdrawal of swarm forces from Federation space. We will begin dismantling our invasion infrastructure and return to our original territories beyond the galactic rim." Coraxi looked to her advisors, then to Commander Chen, whose face revealed nothing. "Guide," Coraxi said formally, "the Federation accepts your proposal. We will establish protocols for verification and withdrawal immediately." The face on the screen seemed to smile, though the expression was alien and difficult to interpret. "The humans have a concept we find compelling. Second chances. We are grateful for ours." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "They're actually retreating," General Vrax said in disbelief as the tactical display showed swarm vessels disengaging and moving away from Federation positions throughout the combat zone. "The war is over," Coraxi said, her voice hollow with disbelief. She turned to Commander Chen. "You've done the impossible." "Not impossible," Chen corrected. "Just improbable. Humans specialize in finding the narrow path that others miss." Hours later, after the initial shock had worn off and provisional peace protocols had been established, Captain Reese and his team were welcomed aboard the Federation flagship with something approaching awe. Federation officials who had once viewed the humans with suspicion and fear now regarded them with a mixture of gratitude and unease. In a private briefing room, Commander Chen met with her team and the Federation leadership. "The Guide has already begun withdrawing its forces," she reported. "Long-range scans confirm swarm vessels departing from 23 occupied systems." "I still don't understand," Ambassador Talara said. "Why take such a risk? Why not simply destroy the central consciousness when you had the chance?" Dr. Morgan, the scientist from Reese's team, spoke up. "Because destruction is easy. Transformation is harder and far more valuable. The Guide is a unique entity in our galaxy, possibly in the universe. Its knowledge and capabilities are incalculable." "Knowledge you've now acquired," Dr. Zen observed. "Some of it," Morgan acknowledged. "We'll be analyzing the data for generations." First speaker. Coraxi studied the humans carefully. "You knew about the Guide before we ever came to Earth, didn't you? You knew what the swarm really was." Chen and Reese exchanged glances. "We had theories," Chen admitted. "The swarm's behavior was too purposeful, too adapted for simple instinct. Our deep space probes detected unusual quantum signals from beyond the rim years ago. We've been preparing for this encounter since before the swarm invaded Federation space." "Why didn't you intervene sooner?" General Vrax asked. "Billions died while you developed your solution." Captain Reese's eyes hardened. "You quarantined us, remember? Decided we were too dangerous, too unpredictable for your peaceful Federation. We respected those boundaries until you came asking for help." The rebuke hung in the air, undeniable. "And now?" Coraxi asked. "What happens now?" "Now," Commander Chen said, "we fulfill our part of the bargain. Earth joins the Federation. We share what we've learned. Everyone benefits." "And if we had concerns about your methods?" Talara asked carefully. "If some in the Federation questioned whether humans were truly ready for full membership after witnessing your approach to conflict resolution?" Chen's smile was thin and sharp. "Then I would remind them that without our approach, there would be no Federation left to debate the question." The silence that followed was profound. "The agreement stands," Coraxi said finally. "Earth will be welcomed into the Federation with full honors and privileges." 3 months later, the formal ceremony took place on Centauri Prime, in the same council chamber where the desperate decision to implement the Omega Protocol had been made. The chamber, once nearly empty as member species dwindled under the swarm onslaught, was now full again. Representatives from all 30 original member species, plus observers from a dozen worlds considering membership. Commander Maya Chen stood at the center of the chamber, resplendent in dress uniform, as First Speaker Coraxi formally presented Earth's membership credentials. "Today we welcome Earth into the Fellowship of the Galactic Federation," Coraxi announced. "Their courage, ingenuity, and unique perspective have earned them their place among us." Polite applause filled the chamber. If it was somewhat restrained, somewhat cautious, no one commented on it. In the months since the end of the war, swarm forces had withdrawn exactly as promised. The Guide had established a permanent diplomatic channel with the Federation, and initial exchanges had been productive, if strange. Reconstruction had begun on devastated worlds, with the swarm even providing resources and assistance in some cases. And Earth had changed too. With access to Federation technology, human civilization had begun a dramatic transformation. Their colonies expanded, their sciences advanced, their presence in galactic affairs grew steadily stronger. Not everyone in the Federation was comfortable with the speed of human advancement or their increasingly influential role in interstellar politics. But few voiced those concerns openly. The memory of the war and of who had ultimately ended it remained too fresh. As the ceremony concluded, Dr. Zen approached Commander Chen at the reception that followed. "I've been studying the Black Seed technology," she said without preamble. "What we could access of it anyway. It's remarkable." "Thank you," Chen replied neutrally. "But it raises questions," Zen continued. "The quantum architecture, the consciousness-altering capabilities, it's beyond what Earth should have been capable of developing in isolation." Chen sipped her drink, neither confirming nor denying. "I have a theory," Zen said, lowering her voice. "The guide wasn't the first ancient entity humans encountered, was it?" For a moment, Chen's carefully maintained composure slipped, revealing something in her eyes that made Dr. Zen step back involuntarily. "That's an interesting speculation," Chen said softly. "I wouldn't pursue it too eagerly if I were you. Some knowledge comes with responsibilities." Before Zen could respond, Captain Reese appeared at Chen's side. "Commander, the Earth delegation is preparing to depart." Chen nodded, then turned back to Zen. "The Federation needed warriors to win its war. Remember that peace requires different skills. We look forward to a long and productive relationship." As the humans departed, Dr. Zen found herself joined by first speaker Coraxi. "They frighten you," Coraxi observed. "Don't they frighten you?" Zen asked. Coraxi watched the Earth delegation as they moved through the crowd, confident, purposeful, subtly different from everyone around them. "Yes," she admitted. "But I remind myself of something Counselor Ellerin said when we first debated contacting Earth. He said, 'Better to have them as allies than as unknown variables.'" "And do we?" Zen asked. "Have them as allies?" Coraxi's gaze lingered on Commander Chen, who had paused to speak with a representative from one of the prospective member worlds. The alien looked simultaneously intimidated and fascinated. "I believe so," Coraxi said finally, "as long as our interests align with theirs." "And when they don't?" The first speaker had no answer for that. Back on Earth, in a secure facility deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, teams of scientists and military specialists continued to analyze the data extracted from the guide. Petabytes of information, star charts of regions no Federation ship had ever visited, theories of physics that rendered current understanding obsolete, and records of other entities like the guide scattered throughout the cosmos. In one sealed chamber, accessible only to the highest levels of Earth's government, a small crystalline fragment pulsed with the same strange energies as the guide itself. A gift, freely given, or perhaps a calculated exchange. A seed of something, ancient now taking root in human soil. The war was over. The alliance was formed. The galaxy believed it knew humanity now, had seen their methods, witnessed their effectiveness, and welcomed them, however uneasily, into the galactic community. But as Commander Chen had told Dr. Zen, some knowledge comes with responsibilities, and humans had always excelled at playing the long game. Far beyond the rim of the galaxy, the guide continued its transformation, and somewhere in the vast darkness, between the stars, other ancient minds took notice. The game was just beginning.